a good Saturday morning. Welcome to the Life of Books online radio show. We are excited to be here. Yes.
Truly we are.
I missed my girls in February, so today I'm joined by the crew. Hey, how about it? Look at the split screen action going on, y'all. We're doing something today. I'm excited. Yes. Welcome. If you're joining us on WLVS, actually listenvisionlive.com, welcome. Thank you for joining us today. If you're joining us via social media through all of our pages, thank you so very much. My name is Dr. Nakia Wright, and I'm excited to be with you today. As you know, we are expecting a phenomenal guest. Many know him from his infamous preaching style, Bishop Rudolph McKissick. He'll be with us in less than 15 minutes, and I'm excited. Before he comes on board, I just want to do a couple of announcements. Thank you again for joining us. The Life of Books is an online book club where it is our heart's desire to remind people and present to others the power of the pages. Reading opens up your mind. It makes you creative. It reminds you of how much is in you and how much is needed and necessary. And I'm an advocate for reading books. So together we've embarked on this journey to present to you a new read every month in hopes that you'll join us and your desires will match ours. And together we'll have put books back in people's hands and get the phones out. So I'm excited about it. I'm going to allow my guests to introduce themselves. My girls, we've been on this journey for 4 years. And yes, the circle has not been broken, and it just keeps getting stronger and stronger and stronger. Behind the scenes, before the girls start, behind the scenes, we have Hadassah and Laura. I don't know if y'all can jump on the screen. But they are the ones that make us look good and keep everything going. And Dizzy behind on WLVS side. Yes, Dizzy. Dizzy, not Dizzy. Sorry. Lord, I will mess up. That's why everybody is baby. I will mess up a name in a minute. Dizzy. We'll start with you, Meek.
Hello, world. I'm Tamika Henry Wood. I'm Tamika Wood, newlywed. Hi, husband.
Take a second to get adjusted.
Sorry. I'm Tamika Wood, and I'm happy to be here this morning.
Yes. I'm Sharmonique Bynum.
Hi, I'm Tashia Hodge.
Good morning, Diane.
Good morning, Marcy Thompson.
Good morning, Shalana Nicole.
Yes.
And we are the life.
And we are the Life of Books. Yes. Yes, we got to work on that. The next time we introduce ourselves after the last person, that's how we chime in. And we are the Life of Books. We're a work in progress. This is live, so this is how you catch us.
Right.
We have some great things that's happening. Like I said, today we're going to be just discussing the read, Moving Beyond Just Getting By. This read to me was so monumental because when you look at my target audience is the body of Christ. So when I look at my target audience, I said we are too stuck to serve such a great God. So this book was so right on time for where I believe the body of Christ is, and I believe it's the nudge that was necessary to take us into our promise. So I'm excited to discuss it. We have a few things that I would like to highlight before we get started. And as you know, the Life of Books is a branch of A Woman's Voice Matters. And each year we present to you our annual symposium. And on Saturday, April the 13th, we'll be having our annual symposium. Yes. It is entitled Happiness, the Game Changer. Again, I'm coming from my target audience. We serve such a great, consistent, and mighty God. Where is our happiness?
Where?
Happiness is necessary to go into the place that God has ordained you to do it. And we've allowed life to rob us of our happiness. So this day was strategically aligned to wake up the things that are necessary to take you into greatness. One of the things that we'll highlight on is how routines suck you of your happiness. Let's break the routines. Let's break the molds. Oftentimes things are easier said than done. So we are bringing practical reasoning to the table that day to offer you wisdom and help that is proven. We're living proof that it works.
Yes.
Let me tell you something, and I am excited about it. Another thing that we'll discuss is a lot of times people find difficulty in giving thanks. Like, I don't have anything to give God thanks for. And one thing that we forget is the Bible says, many are the afflictions of the righteous. If you have nothing to thank God for, thank Him for the grace to survive the affliction. Because so many people die in the thing that's supposed to make them. Affliction is ordained and it is necessary for promise. And we are not going to die in a God-ordained place. So, April the 13th, join us.
Lady Right trying to get my offer.
I'm gonna have to ask you because
Lady Right, I got $3 to send you right now.
That is a word of life.
Let me tell you, April 13th.
To make
Look, April the 13th, be ready. We have some dynamic speakers. Myself, in addition to being a conference host, I will be a conference speaker. We'll have my husband, one of the greatest men that ever walked this earth, not Bishop Donald Wright, Dr. Donald Wright will be in the house. I'm excited about it. Charmy, if anybody has ever heard her pray, if anybody has ever been on the ledge and needed to be talked off, you know the wisdom that this vessel possesses. She's one of our conference speakers. Tashia Hodge, there is not a greater person that I know that's a bigger motivator than Tashia. That baby will have you believing that you can do the impossible when it look like you about to fail. Like, Tashia, if I jump, I'm going to die. She be like, no, if you jump, you going to fly. Let me tell you something. This is it.
That encouraged me.
Look, the wordsmith, Elder Diane Smith. Let me tell you something. There's so many life in her words. I promise you. If you need steps to greatness, Marcy Diane will give you 25 steps to make you great. You can get the step-by-step process. The day is very intentional. It's just $99. I believe that the day is worth more than what $100 could buy. So I believe that you're worth it. Invest in your own self. Invest in your promise. Invest in your dreams. Save the people that love you around you because they can't appreciate the greatness of who you are if you lack happiness. So let me tell you something. Join us April the 13th. Registration is open. You can register via our Eventbrite page. I don't know it. Marcy, what's our Eventbrite page?
awomensvoicematters.eventbrite.com.
Yes, what she said. www.awomensvoicematters.eventbrite.com.
Yes.
I'm excited. In just 2 days, by Tuesday, you'll be able to register via our website, which is www.awomensvoicematters.net. I know I'm on the road today. How about that? I'm excited about it. Yes. So we have some. I promise you would enjoy the entire day. It is from noon to 6. We do have some sponsorship opportunities available. If you're willing to have your name out, if you're willing to pour into some of the greatest people that ever walked the earth, women, please be a sponsor for this event. You can also find that information on our Eventbrite page, on our social media pages at AWV Matters, and on our website in just a few days. Yes! I do want to do a couple of special thank yous, and that is to my husband, Bishop Donald Wright. Thank you for the opportunity to allow my voice to be heard. Thank you for saying yes to all of these dynamic women that have joined me on the journey. This wouldn't even be possible without them. So thank you for allowing them to join me. This has been so great. God has taken us, we've bud, bloomed, and blossomed as a result of our yes, and this would not have happened if you didn't believe in us. So thank you, sir, for believing in us. Shout out to WLVS. Thank you so very much for hosting us every month. We appreciate you. Jeremy, you're doing some great things. It's been a joy to see your dream come alive with the Hip Hop Museum at Blind Wino. Thank you. You are a success story, and we salute you for not giving up. So thank you so very much. To Dr. Renee Allen, who kind of bullied me into the show, thank you so very much. You've allowed us to expand our reach and to be a blessing to all of those under the sound of our voice. So thank you for the encouragement. And we have just about 10 more minutes before Bishop joins us. So most of our listeners haven't heard from us since October of 2018. I was grateful enough to do January segment with Jerry Wright, which is so good. If you did not purchase that book from January, please go to Jerry's website. The Preacher's Daughter is the name of the book. I don't know her website, but if you follow me on JerryLWright.com, JerryLWright.com. I highly recommend the read. It's very good. I admire people that are courageous to put their pain on paper, and she did that so eloquently. And her story is just a testimony of going through and coming out on the other side victorious. So be sure to get that read. And without further ado, Shalonda, tell us what's been going on with you, girl.
Many things. But the major thing that's happened since the last time we saw each other, everybody know I was preparing for an inspection from an accrediting body for the laboratory. We've never ever done this particular agency before. It's like the gold standard of the laboratory. It's very global, right? So we finally had our inspection in December. I was only preparing for it for 2 years. We finally had it in December. And last month we finally got our official letter.
Yes.
That was successful. So it's the first ever accreditation by this agency.
Yes.
At the hospital that I work at.
Yes. Let me say something. You should get a T-shirt and wear it around the office and say, "We pass inspection." Just in case people forget about your greatness that you helped get accomplished. We pass inspection. Yes. I love it. Congratulations. Marcy.
Since we last met, I accepted a position as Chief Learning Officer for a management consulting group. I started February 1st. So I'm excited about that. Yes, super excited.
Really cool.
Yes, exciting times.
Since we last seen each other, I've been cultivating change, spearheading efforts to do a core value rehaul and configuring our HRIS system, and it's been fabulous. So.
Let's see, October, since we last spoke, I've been doing so many things. I feel like I'm accomplishing a lot, but I just got a lot of open strings, so you have to stay tuned for the
Tell us about your grandbaby.
Oh my goodness, you will love her. She has these cheeks that you just want to bite. Her name is Asha. She's so adorable. She's 6 months, and she's just the life. She just wakes up laughing and talking. And
Asha.
She's beautiful. I love
And she
her.
tortures her. She puts on her wigs and
Sunglasses.
her
She won't
sunglasses.
let me do her hair and
Poor Asha.
All right.
Charmy.
Well, since the last time you guys saw me, I just recently, and this will be the first time that anybody at this table will hear this, I have enrolled back into school.
Yes. Come on, Charmy. Laura about to have some more papers to write. No, Laura will write all the mother's papers.
So I'll start that in spring.
Yes, Charmy. Are you on online classes?
Online,
Oh,
yes.
amen. What's your major, Charm?
Organizational psychology.
Yes,
Oh.
wonderful.
We need you.
Come on, Charm.
Earth needs you.
I'm excited about it.
Me too.
Mika.
In October 2018, I joined my life with Churchill Wood and became a wife. And so the journey has been absolutely amazing. It's an entirely new world, and I'm loving every moment of it.
Yes. I'm excited. You better sing, Tasha.
Like that.
Is that what we're doing?
Yes. And for me, I have accepted a position on the advisory board for the county executive, Prince George's County, overseeing the faith-based community. So it's major for me because, that's my heart. So I'm excited about it. So, yes, so many great things happening. Yes. If you're just joining us on listenvision.com, listenvisionlive.com, thank you so very much. If you're joining us on social media, thank you so very much. If by chance our Wi-Fi signal gets stuck and you're unable to view us on our social media channels, please log off and go on to www.listenvisionlive.com, and there will be no internet connection issues. Again, if you're listening to us via social media and it gets stuck, we have some issues, you can jump on over to www.listenvisionlive.com and you will have no problems connecting. We're going to take a brief break, and when we return, we'll be here with Bishop Rudolph McKissick. Yes.
There's so much possibility when you make the choice to make a change. You want better for your life, rebuild and renew. It can't stay the same. No, expand your mind. Now's the time. Use the power that's within to enhance your daily life. You'll grow the more you know. Feed your body, mind, and soul. Get ready for a journey where your passion can unfold. Learn to free yourself with a life of books. Fill your mind through a life of books. Sit down and unwind. Create something new for your life with a life of expand your mind. Now's the time. Use the power that's within to enhance your daily life. You'll grow the more you know. Feed your body, mind, and soul. I hope you're ready for a journey through a life of books. Woo, yeah. I hope you're ready for a journey through a life of books. You gotta learn to free yourself, yeah. Life of books. Come on and feed your soul. Fill your mind with a life of books, yeah. Feed your soul through a life of books. Fill your mind with a life of books. Just be free through a life of books. 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 There's so much possibility when you make the choice to make a change. You want better for your life, rebuild and renew. It can't stay the same. No, expand your mind. Now's the time. Use the power that's within to enhance your daily life.
Bishop Rudolph McKissick in the house. Yes.
Won't he do it?
Yes.
Won't he do it?
Yes, we will.
Don't play with my Rolodex. I know rich people, y'all.
Yes.
Well, when you find one, let me.
Thank you so very much, Bishop. We are excited to dive into your most recent literary read. One thing that I shared with our audience before you came on is my target audience is the body of Christ. And when I look at the body of Christ, I said we serve such a great, mighty, and consistent God. But when you look at the state of the body, most of us are stuck. And this book is just the perfect nudge that is necessary and needed for promise. And I thank you for this work. I think I shared with one of the girls, I said, I didn't expect for this book to hit me in places that I was intentionally avoiding. So I had to put the book down for a day or two because there were some things that were necessary to address that I just didn't want to. So I thank you. I said when I made a note, and we typically start with telling you how we feel about the overall book and then ask you what it is that you thought, what was your heart's desire when you wrote the book. So I'll go ahead and I'll begin. I said that oftentimes Facebook is either the birth or the death of a dream. And I know that this was birthed during your time of recovery, and you made a post on social media. So I thank you for allowing a tool that could either be your builder or your killer to build you and help make the body of Christ stronger. Thank you.
Wow.
Yes.
Thank you, Lady Wright, for even inviting me on. Listen, the way you just introduced the book, I should have had you do the fall.
The next book.
The next one. The next one. Good.
Oh, you said everything better than I did.
I appreciate you. We're going to start with Mika, and we're just going to go down, share our thoughts about the book, and then we're going to get Bishop's sentiments of what his mind was when he first began writing. Mika?
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for sharing this work with us. I appreciated the book on so many levels. In all honesty and transparency, I approached the book. I read the title. I said, okay, moving beyond just getting by. All right, I am so far past mediocrity. I'm going to read this as a ministry tool. This is going to help me help others. Like, I dismissed the fact that I was living in a place of mediocrity, but when I got to certain days, much like Miss Nakia, I had to pause and say, Lord, you are penetrating places that I really was covering. And so for that reason, it just rechanneled all of my energies to know there is always more that you can offer Christ. And that's what the book meant to me.
Yes.
Good morning, sir. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning. How are you?
I'm good. So for me, the book was very eye-opening. I, like most of the other ladies, I didn't think that I was necessarily in a place where I wasn't in a rut, but when I approached it, I was like, oh, okay, this is about to be like a little strategy book. You know, I downplayed where I was so that I could just get through the book. Until I got stuck on like day 4, then day 7. I mean, for me, the book was very eye-opening. It made me see that I had been living in a place where I didn't even know that I was stuck.
Wow.
And so for that, I am more than appreciative of the work that you have penned. Thank you.
One of the things that we're guilty of because of, and I'm sure Bethel has the same experience, because of who our leaders are, we often compare ourselves, and we shouldn't, to what other people are, and we feel like we're so elevated because of the wisdom and the knowledge we know, and we don't realize that we stuck in elevation. And that was they broke us.
I owe you another offering. Yes, stuck in elevation.
Get on my mind today.
Oh, that's a word.
I'm not giving you the money.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
Good. I'm great. How are you doing?
Doing well. First of all, thank you for the literary work.
Oh, thank
Secondly,
you.
the book for me was you used the word reflection on each day, and it was just that. The book caused me to shine a mirror, and it made me realize, and it served as a reminder: you're not walking in excellency. You're doing just the minimal or the bare minimal to get by. This book for me was it had a very compelling argument, and the euphemisms and the analogies were great, and how you tied in the scripture. To me, this was a very good, easy read. It was you didn't put it down, although they may have paused. I didn't put it down because, of course, I waited so late to. I wish I would have started at day one. I wish I started at day one and went daily the whole 30 days. But since I had to put it all in a couple of nights, I thank you. Thank you.
When I said I paused, I just meant throughout the hour.
That's funny.
D.
Good morning, Sarah.
Good morning.
When I think of the book, the theme that I kept hearing replay in my thoughts was stewarding and accountability of grace. I think this is definitely a tool chest resource for those who care about growth and developing an appetite to win.
That's
good. I think as gifted individuals, so often we hide behind our ability to make things fluid. And when we see things happening, I find that we don't necessarily hold ourselves accountable to what we're really capable of, but we hold ourselves to what the status quo looks like and don't realize that we're so much better than that. So I truly enjoyed it.
It's good.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Thank you for the work. For someone like the others, I sort of wear excellence as a badge, a banner. And the book kind of, just kind of came for when you talked about excellence, not as, a place to plateau, but the process and of continual growth and things like that. I say I despise mediocrity. And then, the book kind of was coming for the jugular. And I was like, wait, I did not sign up for this. It just started touching places that I wasn't giving anybody permission to go into those places. And so I just said that this book for me, if you are a person who desires growth, continual growth, and like true greatness, like this is a required read.
That's good.
I just, because it helps you address the undercurrents of elevated places.
Yes.
And
that's very good, Marcy.
So every level, I think this is something that we can come back to over and over again because there are different things to conquer at every level, and you need to. This addresses it. So thank you.
Yes.
Greatly appreciated.
Thank you.
Good.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I think for me overall, it was an eye opener because we can sometimes get in the routine of life, like I'm doing this, I'm doing that, and I'm accomplishing this and that, but are you really maximizing your potential? Right.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Right. And so it's just like for me, it made me stop and say, are you really using the abilities that God gave you to its fullest potential? And it was a reset for me as well,
I like that
because
reset.
a lot of times we live in stagnant waters, and it's a dangerous place to be in stagnant waters because
Come
that's
on,
where infection
Shalonda.
arises. You know what I mean? So it to me was basic principles that's not quite so basic. You know what I mean? You're like, oh, this is basic, but no, actually it's not, because it's really hard to make a change. It's really hard to transition. It's really hard to trigger your mind to say, I'm not going to fear. You know what I mean? Failure, it may happen, but that does not define who I am.
Yes.
So for me, it was really eye-opening for me. So I do appreciate you, sir. Thank you.
So good.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bishop, what birthed the wisdom that the pages of this book possess?
It's interesting to hear all of you ladies with your comments, because your comments confirm for me what I was after in the book. And that is, so often we think of marginality from the downside of laziness. And for me, that's not what I was after in this book. I was after how the devil uses satisfaction as a subtle tool to stop us.
That's good.
So, it wasn't a book to challenge people who are lazy. It was a book to challenge those of us who are sad because we're doing good.
Yeah.
And what really birthed it for me was, while I'm home recovering, I'm doing self-reflection and how easy it is for me. And I was dealing with some staff issues of people who weren't lazy, but they were underachieving because they were satisfied.
Wow, that's good.
And so that's what birthed this, because for me, sometimes people don't underachieve because they're lazy. Sometimes people underachieve because they magnify what they've already achieved.
Yes, Bishop.
Come on, sir. Word.
Y'all are funny. So
Here for you.
I like that. That's it.
so that's what led me, to down and reflect on different areas of our lives where we're doing really good and don't realize that the enemy is using our feeling of accomplishment to lull us to sleep.
That's good.
And we end up in mediocrity even though we're accomplished.
That's so good. Bishop always tells us as a push, the enemy to greatness is good. When you feel like you're good, you don't strive for great.
Right.
And that's so
That's
good.
absolutely right.
Wow. Well, we're going to dive into these pages, Bishop.
All right.
We're going to start with D. D, you bring a point. I mean, if you can get past the introduction, like, oh, wait a minute. If I could get down and pick up my book, I will show you what I did when I was reading the introduction. I just tossed the book across the room like. So, D, can you help and start us off this morning, please?
Sure. I think you are a master at one-worders when it comes to redefining our definition on what we have assumptions about. You challenge us to see it from another perspective. But I'm going to actually go to day one that really just arrested me, because I think it speaks so loudly to empathetic leaders.
That's good.
And so, let's start at the top of the page where you said it's so easy to speak and write such good advice for others and not adhere to the advice that you give.
This was it right here.
And just so you know, I got literally every other sentence outlined throughout.
The whole book.
And I had to stop because I said, then you're going to be confused. And so, what exactly did you want to tell the bishop?
Read the whole book.
This is what we should do. We should spend the next 2 hours reading the book.
Everybody take a day.
Yes.
Everybody
So
take a
much
day.
meat.
It is. But what really registered with me on day one is at the bottom of the page. You said you can become so consumed
Yes.
with helping others that it becomes a blockage to the reality that the help you are sharing is really the help that you need.
This is it.
And you said the enemy can keep you blind to your own need for growth and development by causing you to be focused on helping others and to see in them what they might not be able to see in themselves.
Yes.
And the note that I put on the bottom, and I actually answered a lot of your reflection questions. And
Good.
the first question you asked was, what are some of the areas in my life I need to work on and change? And I put choosing me.
Yes.
Wow.
That's good. That's very, very good.
I think that we as leaders, it's a slippery slope, particularly when your heart is centered in wanting to see people be their best and knowing that you've been blessed and honored to walk in grace to help others. And I don't see it as a burden, I see it as a privilege. So when you see it from that perspective, you constantly have to re-examine to find balance in giving to others and cultivating grace so that you have that much more sharpness to offer.
That's good.
Yeah. You know what was interesting? The day one entry, Nakia, was really the Facebook post you talked about. This book really started out as a post I wrote because I got sick of seeing some people I'm very familiar with always writing great advice that I know they personally don't walk in.
Yes.
And I wrote a post and somebody wrote back to me and said, "You'll turn this into a book." That first post was also birthed. It's a great read back in the 80s when I was in seminary. God, I'm telling my age. When I was in seminary in the 80s, there was a book by a guy named Henry Nouwen called Physician, Heal Thyself.
Yes.
And the whole premise of this book is a challenge to preachers of how we take the liberty to preach on concepts of which we have no convictions.
That's good.
Wow.
And that's kind of what I was talking about in that first post. You know, we can write these great concepts of which we have no conviction about in our own lives, and we never turn it in on ourselves and practice the things that we're challenging others to do.
That's so good. One thing that I think needs to be read from day one is, it is the curse of the critical spirit. It is quite tricky and very deceptive. It masquerades as a spirit of help. You know, we share our observations with others in an attempt to help them, or we share insights and wise thoughts on social media in an attempt to help others better themselves. Please don't get me wrong. It is a noble gesture. It is an awesome thing to want others to be better and do better. It can also, however, be the place of serious deception.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Sometimes unintentionally.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
so
Yes.
good.
Yes. And, you know, as leaders, to me, this is one of the most dangerous and one of the most subtle satanic strategies that we get so enamored and caught up in helping others that our lives become the dysfunctional antithesis to the advice we give.
Oh my Lord.
Yeah, with my dollar.
Okay.
What's your cash
I
app?
was about to say we need to cash
What's
app
your
you an
cash
offer.
Jesus.
That's funny.
That is the truth. Wow. Shalonda?
Yes. I would say, since we're still in day one, but just to go back to the introduction on page 6.
Yes, Lord.
Just pause and read that one little line. It says, remember, we can never adjust what we will not admit. Right. And I feel like that is important for us to note. Like, the first thing you have to do is admit where you are.
Yes.
You know, we live these fabricated lives, you know, because social media is what it is nowadays. And what you see on social media is really not who you really are. It's like, who are you really trying to impress? So it's like you have to say what the issue really is. You can't let life happen as is, because if you never say it, change will never happen. You gotta shift. It's sometimes it's uncomfortable, but it's very necessary. You must shift in order to get the help that you need.
Yes. One of the things that you address in the introduction is self-reflection. Well, everybody knows that it's necessary. It is so difficult to do because self-reflection can be so painful that people avoid it. And it's easier to live behind a perception than it is people's reality. If you were able to offer some advice in the area of how to begin self-reflection and deal with the process that comes with it, what would you say?
I think it first begins with the comment my sister made from the book that, you know, you can't adjust what you won't admit, or the way James Baldwin, the great poet, puts it, you can't fix what you won't face.
Yes.
I think it has to start with an earnest desire to be better. You've got to start there, because if you don't start there, I did a Bible study this past, last Sunday, not this past Wednesday, but Sunday. I'm in this series on the Lord's Prayer. And I was in a part where it's talking about the kingdom of God, that kingdom come. And I referenced where I promise I'm going the long way home, but I'm answering your question. Jesus says, repent, for the kingdom is at hand. I sound like my brother right now.
We used to.
And that word repent, I told him when I did a real study on it, we always think repent is to change our mind on something, turn away and change our mind. And while that's not incorrect, it is inaccurate, because the part we miss in the Greek is it is a changing my mind because I see something differently. And the point is, if I don't see something differently, I can change my mind for another reason and then turn to something just like it because I didn't see it differently.
Wow.
And so for me, the starting point is you have to see your success differently, and you have to see yourself differently. You have to see your success as progression and not perfection. And you know, until I see myself differently and see myself as still having greater I can be, and on the opposite end, seeing myself greater than the failures that have occurred, that's got to be the starting place to adjusting and to changing and to fixing.
That's good. That's good. Shalonda, did you have another point that you were going to make?
I can stop there, but can I just say this last part when he uses Matthew, and he says, this begs the question: am I really seeing their spec, or am I actually seeing my sling?
Wait now.
That was it. Come on, Bishop. Now,
listen.
I said, come on here. I need to give him another offer. Okay. Because that's what we do. We like, we do. You know, I see this, but no. It could be you, love. Yes. But you have to take a pause and say, am I looking at my own plate? You know, it's not a spec, it's my own that I have to deal with internally. So, Bishop, that right there, you saving lives on that one.
Yes, you are.
I mean, you know, when you think, if you just think about it logically, a plank is bigger than a speck.
Yes.
And if the plank is in my eye, I can't see a speck because of the bigness of the plank.
Right.
That's the truth, sir.
So what I'm looking at is really not your speck. I'm looking at my plank.
Right.
But because I can't see myself like I need to, I think my plank is your speck.
Yeah.
Jesus.
And that's what we do.
That's what we do.
That's
Right.
what we do.
It truly is a man down situation.
It is.
Woo. Marcy.
So I'll just keep on this roll right here for a second. But you talked about, is it misplaced criticism? And I was like, wait, what? Should I be checking me? And so as I was reading this book, because I did feel like it just kept coming for me. Like every time I read a page, I was like, no.
You know, my books have a lot of bruises. This is why I'm so dented. I threw this book across the room, honey.
You know, the misplaced criticism. I was like, okay, you check. Because the thing, as I read the pages, I kept saying to myself, why is this agitating me? There were parts of it that just kept rubbing. I was like, wait. My heart is toward God. I'm trying to do what I think. But there were parts of it, every page just kept rubbing me. And this is what I realized for me. So being an answer in the earth, being an answer for God's people, that's a sense of accomplishment, right? So we think we're doing it.
Yes.
You spoke about that, Bishop. But the thing that makes us addicted to that, for me, is that I don't have to be accountable for your change. So I feel like I checked the box of helping. I'm good because I'm a helper. I mean, I'm just talking about, I just needed to really internalize this book for me. Like when you started like checking me. And the thing is, Bishop, it's so palatable because you got the side eyes, you got the LOL. So it, you know, you like, it's balanced. And it's like, oh, well, you just rebuked me again. Or these words just, and so I'm just like, I'm trying to internalize it. And that's what it was. It's just like, I feel like I've done something. And the thing that I like about it is that I don't have to answer for your change. Right. And so that's why it's easier for me to help you change because I'm not responsible for it. And the whole book is like an accountability tool. Like if you need accountability, this is your tool. So I mean that's all I wanted to say about dating life.
Wow. It checked me as I wrote it. It was a huge check for me because you know, as my grandmama used to say, you start smelling yourself. You know, sir. And you start thinking you all that. And it was a real check for me, even writing each day's devotional piece. It was really, as much as I didn't say it even in the introduction, this book was really a transparent moment, letting the world know what I wrestle with.
That's good. I always say that truth saves. One of the things, piggybacking off of what Marcy said, one of the things that I had to realize is that we serve a very jealous God, and oftentimes the people that I believe that I was called to be an answer to, I become their little God, because in their times of crisis, they call me for an answer. So I had to pull back my availability so that I wouldn't be standing in the way of God. That's just
good.
like somebody that will only get delivered. Our pastor that very rarely lays hands on people, because he says that if I lay hands on you, the only time you think you'll be delivered is by my touch. So I'm building you to teach you that you can go to the throne for yourself and get delivered.
Absolutely.
And one of the things that being answers is you have to have limits to your being an answer. You have to realize that you can't replace their relationship with God, and you can't be there every time they call. You have to, my goal has to be to push them to the throne.
That's good.
Right.
Yeah, and you have to you have to resist the temptation of feeding your insecurity
Why you don't?
and to be there for them as God.
See, wait now.
The bell.
Your cash out again, please, sir. Just call it out. Just call it out.
Because there are many people, who are addicted to the need people have for them.
I just had that conversation this morning. That is so true.
Yes. Yeah. You wanna be their God, even though you claim you're not trying to be
That
their
is the
God.
truth.
Bishop. Don't slay
Y'all,
us.
this
We
bell
got
is
we
funny.
got a couple more. Don't slay us. We got a whole hour and some
We
change
only
to
on
go.
day one. We only on day one.
Woo! Sir.
That's funny.
Jesus, that is the truth. Tashia.
Sir, I said you came out the gate swinging on day one. But the point that grasped me the most in day one was Jesus makes a profound statement, which becomes a good place to start your journeys. Let's start with the things we need to change in ourselves before daring to try to change and help everybody else.
Yes.
I took day one as a self-preservation. Oftentimes we so committed to seeing the success of others, we start lacking and forgetting about what it is that we need to be doing. And so day one for me was very good, very great, and it helped me to sometimes it's good to scale back and let people sink. I mean, they're gonna swim eventually because of all that you have instilled in them, but you can't be sitting there keep on throwing them the life raft every time you get into something. So I took away the one when you on the plane, what they say,
Put your mask on
something
first.
happened, put your mask on.
So
So day one for me was my mask. I'm saving me
Wow.
first.
Yes, Lord. That's good.
Wow. Wow. That's interesting. Day one was the hardest one for me. As I said, that really was a post I did on Facebook, not even thinking about a book. And to be honest, I wrote that post in anger.
Wow.
So that's probably why it feels like I'm really coming for you, because I was really, I had read something somebody wrote. Several things they had written, like a series of posts that were really good. And it was like, Negro, you don't even practice this yourself. Stop this.
Stop it.
And it angered me. And so it was my venting. That first post was really a vent. So that's probably why it reads like, I'm checking you.
Yes. But listen, for most of us who are tough, because many of us, we're tough. We have hard exteriors. We needed it this rough and in order to get it. Because if you were soft and passive by it, I would have put it off on somebody else. But the fact that you were this aggressive,
I knew that was to me.
It was a
let me tell you something.
Let me listen. Yeah.
Shami. Wait, first of all, let's set the standard. We have been in day one for 30 minutes.
Okay.
For 30 minutes.
Y'all, we are not going to get stuck in these days because it's 29 more to go.
So wait, before we go to me, I say we go to Tamika because she really wants to go back to this introduction.
Come on, Mika.
And the reason we have to go back to the introduction because the entire book is framed around the syndrome of getting by.
Yes.
And so I feel like we should, even for those who are listening, you have to define get by.
syndrome.
Yes.
Okay, it's what we're going to talk about the whole day. And so what you say is the concept of getting by simply means doing enough in a task to have the task done. You didn't do your best, but you didn't do your worst.
Yes.
You did something with enough proficiency that it got the job done. You did enough to get by.
That's good.
Even when others don't know, I barely did enough because my good is most people's best. Right? It just is. You define getting by, and here's the deal. You went from defining getting by to challenging me to admit it. And adjust. And so here's, look, my footnote was this, and it came from my husband. He says, don't let pride kill what God can heal.
Yeah.
We hide stuff, right?
Wow.
We hide it. We hide it. We
good.
cover it. We smother it. But if you
That's
don't admit
good.
it, God can't heal it. So here I am, Jesus. And when I tell you, it set the tone for me to move through the book. It's like, okay, God, you can have access now. Your transparency, your transparency as an author, and then this opening of admit it. Okay, guards down. What you got for me, Jesus?
Guards down.
Good. That's Mika.
Yeah.
You know, I tried to define, and it's interesting you picked up on it, because I tried to define getting by in a way that didn't make getting by seem like I'm lazy.
Yes.
Mission accomplished.
Or I'm trying to not pursue. I tried to define it in such a way for people who would read this, knowing that they're doing good, but being hit in the face with the reality of, am I stuck on good because I'm satisfied?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good. If you're just joining us on listenvisionlive.com, thank you so very much. You're joining the Life of Books online book club. We are with the author Bishop Rudolph McKissick, and we're discussing the read, Moving Beyond Just Getting By. Again, if you're just joining us on social media, thank you so very much. If you have not yet ordered this book, by the time we end this broadcast, we will give you the ways that you can order. As a matter of fact, ladies, can you put it in the comment section? And let's get this book off the shelves into the hands, because I believe this is the recipe to the kingdom is supposed to be one. And how do we accomplish the oneness? I believe that this is the start of the recipe to the oneness.
That's so good.
Wow.
So good.
Wow.
Yes. Sharmi.
All right, so I'll jump into day 2. So on the first page, in the first paragraph, it says, in reality, they are not reasons but excuses. You do know what an excuse is. An excuse is a fabricated reason to abandon resolve, abdicate responsibility, and apologize for your resources. And the part that stuck out for me was an excuse is a fabricated reason to abandon resolve.
Baby.
So for me, it's funny, I had one clear thing or one clear picture come in mind when that happened, and it was my class. Because one of the things that I set out to do was I wanted to be able to try to help those that serve leadership to be the best servant that they could be.
Shami is talking about her CAA classes that she teach for armor bearers and those who serve in ministry.
Okay.
And thank you, Nakia.
Plug.
The next class is
The next class is gonna be.
That's funny.
And so in that, I did my first session, and I was like, okay, I got it out. I'm good. I don't feel the pressure to, do another one, although I feel that the need is great. And so I was like, okay, you know what? But it's okay. I don't have to do that because I could be doing something else. I don't have to do that because Lady Ray has all these great things happening. I can attach myself to her and be successful through her, or through so Bishop, good. Or through the church as a whole.
Absolutely.
And what he did was my excuse made me abandon my resolve to be great in the spot where I feel like God has called me to be.
Yes.
And so for me, it was like, because how do you abandon your own resolve?
This is it. How do you abandon your own resolve? So I get on your nerves and I be keeping CAA alive. No. This is what we're going to do.
And it's a fabricated excuse.
It is. This is.
Yes.
Let's keep read. I
Yes.
want to read this and then you respond because it's necessary to piggyback off of what she said. We come up with excuses such as "This is just who I am." To that, I
Yep.
say, just because this has been you doesn't mean is you or should still be you. We get caught up on what we don't have, who we don't have, and who is keeping us from being all we can be. When you accept this as a part of your identity, you will never know who God really intends for you to be.
That is that's great.
Bishop.
Let me tell you what birthed that particular entry is very interesting was the conversation I had with my doctor after this surgery, because it was throat surgery I just had. And the doctor said to me, "You're going to have to change your style." And I said, what do you mean style? He said, and he's not of African American descent. So I made the assumption he didn't understand the African American culture when it comes to delivery style. He said all that hollering you do. He said, I listen to you, because he's been my doctor for years. He said, you're going to have to become more conversational in your delivery. I said, you mean you want me to preach like Joel Osteen? And, I didn't mean it negatively,
Yes.
at least not all the way negative.
Yes.
And I started offering, the excuses of, my engagements are going to shrink, my invitations are going to stop. Wow. People come to hear me for won't he do it. I started raising all these excuses and to check me and say to me, there is no such thing as that. It's only a choice.
Yes. It's good.
And either you're going to choose to now flow in who you are becoming and who you are in this season, not evolve, because evolve to me always implies that who I have been wasn't good enough, and that's not always true.
That's good, Bishop.
Very good.
So I'm careful when I say evolve. I would rather say I'm transitioning, you know what I mean, or shifting. And God said, either you're going to appreciate the shift, or you're going to settle where you are and miss all I have for you if you submit to who you are. And that's when I thought about excuses.
Wow.
I wanted to abdicate my resolve to really pursue who God was making me.
That's good. And it is almost as if, I'm sorry, Shyam, it's almost as if God just needed you to get to that place in order to trust him that he got you, because you're one of my favorite preachers. So when your wife go live, I listen to you. And you were in California or somewhere last week, and I would have never known that you had throat surgery. You were who you were before your surgery.
Right. And it's been interesting because it also revealed my own personal insecurities. Mm-hmm. And it revealed where my voids were in my faith.
Wow.
Yes. I need to run. That chapter did that to me, which is why I was mad about it.
We need to have done this in church so we can take a lap right now and then come back.
I don't know about that, but I'm just gonna lay down.
Because my in reality, I had to face the fact that my gift had become my God, as opposed to my God being the giver of my gift.
Bishop! Oh my goodness!
Yeah,
Woo!
and
I paid for this makeup this morning. Don't make it run.
Don't you do that?
It's so silly. So I had to check myself, and determined to continue to have the resolve it takes to walk in excellence.
Wow.
This is so good. It's so good.
And here's the thing, he boils it down. You boil it down, sir, to a choice.
It's a choice.
And it takes away every excuse because it's like, no, the choice is either you will or you won't.
That's
Will
it.
or you won't.
Like, and he makes it sound so
Right.
simple and easy.
Well, look, and he also, when he quoted the poem, I wanted to read this because, like you said, you're not speaking to lazy people. So you also spoke to the intellect of leaders. Just
Yeah.
leaders, whatever you lead at work, your home, your church, whatever. You said, so you use the poem, excuses are tools of incompetence. So,
Yes.
immediately I perked up. So wait, you calling me incompetent? Because I use excuses? I'm telling you, because that is because it kept coming from me.
It sounded like fighting words.
It sounded like fighting words. Excuses are tools of incompetence. Used to build bridges to nowhere. Again, what are you saying, Bishop? You telling me that I'm going nowhere with my excuses? That's exactly what you're saying. And monuments of nothingness. And those who use them seldom specialize in anything else. And so, I'm an excuse specialist. Is that what you're calling me? 'Cause I feel like I'm ready
that
to
should
fight
be a
somebody.
title.
I am an excuse specialist. And so, again,
Excuse specialist. My word.
these words kept jumping out, and I felt like you just kept hitting me in the head. Like, no, I didn't tell you to do that. I didn't give you space to do that. But I mean, it's just so good because again, you're speaking to our intellect and just like, listen, you think you're great, but you're not so much. Not so much.
Right.
There's
That's
always
good.
room. So,
There's always room.
excuse making is nothing new. If you read the Bible, you will discover that often people who are given assignments by God threw up their reasons for why they could not make it happen. Moses,
Right.
Gideon. I
Yeah.
mean, you just
Right.
went on and on and on. And at every point, jump down, every point, with every excuse, there was always one common theme in God's response, and it was, I am with you. And,
Right.
that's it. Trust me, I'm with you. Trust me,
Right.
I'm with you. And so, I just so appreciated this.
But if you keep going right there, though.
Okay.
Right, I was just about to say, you got to read that next part,
In
though.
other words, if you really
Yeah.
know who God is, there is no excuse powerful
No excuse
enough to
powerful
override
enough.
His intentions for your life. Make sure you don't get into the practice of idolatry
Oh, have mercy.
by idolizing your excuses and giving them power that doesn't exist.
It doesn't exist.
That part right there.
It doesn't. That part.
That part.
Hashtag that part.
That part.
Don't idolize your excuse.
But let's come down. Let's come down. He said the dangers of empowering excuses. It causes you to then make decisions based on emotions.
Yes.
Excuses fuel your emotions. They cause you to feel a certain way based on how that excuse made you feel about yourself. Too many excuses have a lot of emotion and little reasoning, and as a result, we make bad decisions.
Yes.
We marry our emotions.
This
and
part right
avoid
here.
our intellect.
What? You come with your emotion, you leave your brain, cut it out.
Yes, that sounds like the church.
That's it.
Yeah,
What
like
would you say?
we say all the time.
Excuses
Bishop-
causes you to make a decision based on your emotions.
This is what Bishop says. Our church is filled with vice presidents, entrepreneurs, people that run businesses, that can corporations. And when they get to church, they fall asleep. Like, how can you dummy down all of this intellect when you are so smart and you come to God and you just give him just enough to get by? It's
Wow.
like we want to get into heaven. It's just enough to get. You don't realize there's stages to heaven, but we want to do just enough just to get in. No, I want all my crowns.
Give it to
I want all
Yeah.
of them.
But
Yes.
what you said, Nakia, I thought about the fact that we are master manipulators of our emotions. We know how to pretend
we do.
to bring our result that we're looking for out of a situation. And
Yeah.
it's so unfortunate that now we just live in an environment where we think we're entitled to great.
We think
We
we are
don't think
entitled
that
to great.
we have to be developed into
Right,
great.
right.
We think that we just spit out the womb great.
Right.
We are in such a narcissistic coma of our own ideologies of great.
Narcissistic coma. I got your cash out. We good.
You hear this, Bishop?
We know hers.
Listen, especially this generation, millennials live with entitlement.
Oh, God.
They feel like they have arrived at a place they have not earned
True.
and deserve something they have not worked for. And it's really, really sad. And yeah, excuses are dangerous. Excuses are very dangerous because sometimes an excuse is the very opposite of faith. Because my excuse tries to what I don't have to move forward to do something. When in reality, faith says, I don't have it, but if I make the move, God will bring into my life people who will use their influence, their resources, and their ability to help me accomplish what the move is supposed to make.
Yes.
So either you walk in faith or you walk in excuse. And once again, it's a choice.
Bishop, you narrowed down to these choices. I'm
Look,
telling you.
I have I've learned the power of allowing excuse, but I came to defense in this day. I kind of felt like, but wait, there are some people who face real life hardships, and I can understand their excuses. And so I'm reading through, I'm ingesting what you're saying, but at the same time I'm going, no, Naomi's husband and kids died. Like, that's not okay. Like, Joe, and I started just processing the people I knew in real life where these excuses really do serve as barriers, if not in real life, psychologically, for them to move on. But you came for it in day 10.
Got you straight, me.
You came for it on page 34.
How about that?
So, hold on. So, on day 10, I titled the day, right? It says, Poor Beginnings Don't Yield Marginal Endings. So, these are, we got to look high.
Hi, Lady Kim.
Hey, Lady Kim.
Your hair is cute.
Get my 2 cents in, so I figured I'd come this way. I've been on the doggone timeline.
Oh, no, they haven't said, why y'all haven't tell us Lady Kim been commenting, girls? Come on, Lady Kim, give us your 2 cents. Your 20
I was
cents.
on chapter 2 for 2 months.
Yeah.
Day 2.
Truth, Lord.
Day 2, because he said you need to have your inner man check your get by yourself, man. If your inner man is strengthened, it'll check your get by,
Everything else.
man.
That is the truth.
I said, well, all right.
I would have
So when-
swung on him if I lived with him if he wrote this book. I would have swung on him. I promise you, I would have swung on him.
I said, so in my fleshly moments, my inner man needs to rise up and get with my get by self, man.
Yes, I love it. On that regard, do we have any comments from the social media audience? We're sorry, we didn't mean to ignore you, Lady Kim. If we do have some, just raise your hand up and we will address them. Mika?
Okay, so you were in my head, and it picks up on page 33 with day 10. You say, even down to Jesus himself, he was born to a virgin on the backside of an inn, outside in a cave with the animals, and placed in a feeding trough. For the first few years of his life, he was an immigrant in Egypt. The beginnings of Jesus were not ideal, yet he never complained or used it as an excuse to shun greatness.
Yeah.
A poor beginning does not have to equate to an unsuccessful journey or marginal ending. If I may skip down to the paragraph that says it's a choice. That's really what an excuse boils down to, a choice.
Yes.
An excuse is a choice and
not
not
a
a lifestyle.
lifestyle.
The getting by syndrome is to make excuses into a lifestyle. I read once that in life there are no such things as excuses, only choices. An excuse is a choice that you empower to determine your mentality and activity. The time is out for excusing marginality. The time is out for using your surroundings and beginnings as crutches to lean on.
Yes.
A crutch is only designed to to aid you while what was broken gets healed.
So good. Yeah.
Sir. And look, and it goes back to what you offered in day 2. I am with you.
Yes.
That's it.
Yes.
Before uttering excuse, remind yourself. Christ is with me.
You know, it's funny you went to that particular day because I also deal with Jabez in that day, and the part for me about Jabez, I did a series on Jabez, and the part that blessed me and I tried to capsulize it a little bit in that day 10 was, we always talk about the part in Jabez where he says, oh, that thou would bless me indeed, enlarge my territory. For me, the part of the prayer that we never talk about, that's the best part for me, is he tells God, he asks God to do all of that. Then he says, so that I might not do evil to others, or that I might not do harm to others. He uses the same word that is the definition in his name. And what he was saying was, God, when you bless me, don't let me treat others like I was treated in my beginning.
Yes.
So that I don't blame my wickedness on my woundedness.
Oh, my Lord.
Wonderful.
I almost jumped over this table. Jesus.
You know, because that's what we do. We blame the way we are on the stuff we've been through.
Yes, we do.
And Jabez says, no, when you bless me, I don't want to become what I was treated like.
Yes.
And so once again, like you said, it's a choice.
That's so good. Last night at prayer, Bishop did an altar call for anxiety because so many of us suffer with this quiet anxiety. And one of the prayers that he prayed is that the things that were done for me will no longer affect me and cause me anxiety. I'm no longer there.
Yeah.
But psychologically, life will happen. It'll remind you of that wound or that moment or that feeling and that emotion. And the same emotion you had back then will come in your current situation where it's not the same, but the anxiety attached to it is still there.
Yes. That's true.
And I feel like that only comes out through prayer. I know personally, like when I first started coming to the church, one of the things that I had never dealt with was the feeling that came with being adopted. Not understanding why.
Wow.
You know, you place on yourself these wounds that nobody actually put on you. So you're like, well, why did they give me up at birth? Was I not good enough? Like you have all of these different pains that you're hiding, anxiety, whatever, and then you have to go in prayer and ask God, no, don't let me be of what my own thoughts are making me feel like are real. Nobody ever said that I wasn't good enough. But I put that on myself. Back to that Brene Brown book. Like, we do that all the time. And so at that point, I was letting that keep me from doing certain things. I was letting that keep me from lowering my walls, from loving because I felt like a certain way. But no, you have to come through that through prayer. That's the only way. But again, you can never ever fix what you won't face.
That's it.
Yeah.
Well, I had this conversation this morning, and I said we sometimes hide behind prayer that needs to be delivered, and oftentimes, and I used the comparison of this. I said if you break your arm, I said if you don't properly align it when it's healing, it won't heal back the way that it's supposed to. There are some areas in our life that we need deliverance from that we pray over. And you have to be able to psychologically be able to differentiate between, okay, if I go to the Lord with this, he'll fix this. Or if this issue is so great, I need deliverance in order to get through. Because if I just pray about it, it'll become a way of life. Right. And that is...
Go ahead. I'm
done,
a piggyback.
I'm finished. Yes, sir.
You know that there's a great line. We know this story Paul tells in 2 Corinthians about the thorn in the flesh. And one of the things that we never ever realize is when Paul says, this thing happened to me 13, 14 years ago. Watch this. And he said, I went 3 times about it. Now, for a minute, and I'm talking about what you said, that at some point prayer becomes what we hide behind. There's nowhere in the world over 14 years I'm only going to the Lord 3 times about something. If I still have it, because he still had the thorn. Yeah. Which suggests to me at a certain point, when God is answered, even if I don't like the answer, I stop praying and live in the faith of the answer.
Live in the faith of the answer. Really, Bishop?
Okay. That at a certain point, Paul said, I prayed 3 times. God's answer never changed. So I stopped praying and I started living in the faith of the answer. Wow. And that's where the deliverance starts. where I realize God's answer is God's answer, and I don't use here to abdicate my responsibility to live in the faith of the answer.
Yeah. That's good.
So you
God's
you still
answer is
praying,
God's
you still praying about going back to school, but God already answered that.
Yeah. That's good, Bishop. Wow.
You're still praying about ministry, but God already answered that. And you're praying, not seeking guidance. You're praying because you're scared.
Yes. Or you're trying to listen.
Don't make me jump.
Or you're trying to manipulate your relationship with God because you think He's gonna change His mind if you keep coming to Him in a different way.
Yes, which in essence means you're telling God He's the slave and you're God.
Really?
Oh my goodness.
Social media, are y'all just enamored of everything that's taking place right now? This is incredible.
Yes.
Jesus, this is so good. I'm gonna go to day 22 because this right here is the source of my greatest frustration.
67.
This right here, being married to a pastor.
Oh Lord.
Who gives everything that he has so that we can be better. And we make the choice not to change. And when I tell you, it's so frustrating because we're in church, and I read this meme the other day. I think Luther McKissick, I think that Luther something, I forget his name.
McKinstry.
He put the meme up, and he was like, I'm sitting here preaching, and the person I'm preaching about was, you better preach. He's like, I want to stop preaching and say, I'm preaching to you. You better help people. I'm trying to help you. and look, I laughed so hard to send it to my husband. That's the truth. I said, baby, how many times you wanted to say this? But this chapter is one of the things that I always tell my husband, you're graced to pastor because I'm frustrated when I see people stunt their growth when they've been given all the tools to be great. And one thing that you said is so many have drowned in the waters of change in areas of their life because they refuse to ride the wave. If you want to sustain something, you have to learn how to change something. Want something to be sustained, to remain, then you must know how to engage in change for it to remain. The writer went on to say that the change is the only way to protect whatever exists, because without continuous readjustment, the present can't continue. And I'll jump down and say, it says, you don't keep something by not changing it. You lose it if you don't change it. When you don't engage in change, you deprive the very thing that you love and want to hold on to of the very thing it needs to survive. A marriage, a business, a friendship, even a ministry is being destruction if it doesn't engage in change over time. That means that a refusal to engage in healthy change is a guarantee to settle and get by. Bishop? Really?
But let's look at God. God never changes who he is. He does change systems with which he operates. He went from judges to kings to prophets. Jesus went from, himself to disciples / apostles, and then that became teachers. That God kept his relationship with God's people element of change. He changed according to what his system, according to what season he was in. We don't like to change systems with seasons. Wear the same clothes in the winter that you wear in the summer.
This is
See how practical that is? That is so practical.
That is
It makes
so
so
good.
much sense.
Help us.
So practical.
That makes sense.
So you have to change the system according to the season you're in.
That's good, Bishop.
We don't like that.
We do not. And I use that as my barometer is marriage. I've been married to my husband for 6 years. The person that I married 6 years, going on 6 years, the person that I married 5.5 years ago is not the same person he is today. And if I keep addressing him and ministering to him the way he was 5 years ago, I can lose my husband physically, but mentally he'll tap out because I'm not able to feed and to nurture where he currently is. And you said something
Right.
that's so key. The difference between change and transition.
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
That was my favorite part. Yes.
Let me tell you something. Change is a shift. Getting a new boss is a change. Getting a promotion or losing your job is change. Transition is quite different. Transition is the process of letting go of the way things used to be and then taking hold of the way they have subsequently become. And between the letting go and taking hold is this zone where things aren't the old way and aren't quite the new way yet. And I believe we're all testaments of that because we're all on the road to promise. We're all letting go of who we were as Jabak, and we're entering into the gathering. And a lot of people are having a hard time with this, even though their mouths say, "Yay, we with you," their actions say, "I'm still stuck."
Yes.
Oh my goodness. This should be required reading for the gathering. Just this page right here.
Well, the thing about it is, the thing I reflected on, I was like, okay, why am I having an issue with this? Well, the thing is, in transition, you've learned how to master a certain place. And what I realized for me, there's an area of control that I don't like to give up. So I don't like to give up my control. Or look, or even because, and then an excuse will come in, well, God, I know this place. I've mastered this place. I can be effective because I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And what he's saying is, no, I want you to elevate to a place where you have to trust me because you don't have it.
Yes.
Anything that good's coming out of you, I'm giving you that.
That's it.
And if you stay here, you're going to stay in you.
Yeah.
In what you know and what you can control. God, lead and guide me. So that's.
But if you needed it, would you still have it?
That's it.
And we still have an emotional attachment with our definition of change that's destructive.
Yes.
Yes.
When we really see change as the route, the avenue to blessing, will begin to make transition smoother in our heart.
That's so good. My husband said something not long ago. He said, change is the most natural and unnatural thing simultaneously. He was saying that, we grow up, we change grades when we're in high school. He says, but in our mind, it's hard for us to change our mind, but it's easy for us to want to be a teenager anymore. I'm become 21. I'm an adult. I'm this. He says we change our physical selves. We change so many things, but our minds. He says so simultaneously. It is so difficult. And I agree. It's the difference between change and transition, and it's the parts that, for me, the difficulty is the parts that I control.
That's the truth.
And I don't know what's out there.
Yeah.
I don't know I don't like the unknown. And so that's God
it's a good example of that is the baby in the womb. I read this one time where a doctor said that one of the reasons that baby cried is because for 9 months they've gotten used to where they were.
Yes.
And now they have entered into something they're not used to. And the reality, that's how we have to think about change and growth.
Because if you know
the reality is every place we are is a womb there to grow, but you can't stay there if you're going to continue to grow.
That's good.
That you have to pass through and out of that womb into the next place. We don't like to do that. Stay in the womb. And if you stay past the time the womb is able to hold you, you will die.
That's the truth. Wow. Bishop, in writing this book, what day was your favorite?
Honestly, day one.
Yeah, I can see why.
Day one. Because from day one was almost like a synopsis or summation of everything else that I wrote. I really could have done day one as day 30.
Yeah.
Oh wow, yeah.
Day one was my favorite because it also challenged me. So that one was my, because I think of the other ones I dealt with maybe particular or specific things. While as in day one, it was just the challenge of, stop being.
You could cut up, Bishop. Stop being.
Stop being great at being good.
Oh yeah, that's good. That's good.
You know-
Shalonda, go ahead. I'm sorry, Bishop.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna ask the girls the same question. Shalonda, what was your favorite part of the entire book?
It was many parts. It's kind of hard to pick one particular part because this is the thing with Bishop here. He has so many one-liners and definitions.
Look, I had to
It's
identify
just
favorite
like-
quotes through here.
Yeah,
I had
it's
to.
just so many parts.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it's just too many to choose from.
Marcy, what was your favorite day?
So I think day 12 was one of my favorites, where you talked about launch out. And
Yeah.
I just made a couple of notes, reposition yourself. Don't be satisfied with the shore. I was like, okay, yes, greater is waiting on me. And you said something so good. You said you can't trust God and depend on guarantees at the same time. And I
Yes,
was like,
that's so good.
Listen, I was all the way down. I was like, listen, I'm not going to throw my iPad, but I wanted to.
Yes.
I wanted to. It's like you can't do both. You can't trust God and depend on the guarantees. And you went into that in day 12. Like, that's it. Speaking to my head, that's it.
That's good.
Yes.
Marcy, can you read that last sentence on day 12, that starting with sometimes blessings?
Day 12, sometimes blessings.
Yep.
Oh, nope. Let me look at yours.
Sometimes blessings don't come, or you aren't prepared for the blessing until you have left where you have been. Yep.
Sometimes blessings don't come, or you aren't prepared for the blessing until you have left where you have been. If you are still today at the same place you have been, living with the same futile results you have been living with, then there are some blessings you aren't ready to receive. The problem in your life for why you aren't more blessed than you are, this is so good, than you are, just might have something to do with distance. Today is the day to make the decision to make a change, a shift, a repositioning.
And it's a sentence in the next paragraph. That can be physical or mental.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Because sometimes the shore is not a person or a situation or a context. Sometimes the shore is your own consciousness, your own thinking.
That's so good. Your own
Wow.
thinking.
And that's what you have to disconnect from.
That's the truth.
Yes, Lord.
Bishop, that's so easy to say. For people that's struggling with disconnecting, how do you do that?
Trust God. It's easy challenge because it's everything to me now. Trust.
Yes.
It's a matter. Do I want what's waiting on me?
That's
Do I
good.
want
what's
what
waiting.
God
Yes.
has for me?
Yes.
So good.
That's
You know,
good.
And it just becomes a matter of faith and trust. Am I willing to disconnect from where I have been? There is waiting on me.
That's so good. I always said this, my relationship with God is a commitment. When the desire is no longer there, my choice to be committed is what sustains me. Because sometimes you do get weary and well doing. And when you and when you look at it as a commitment, that is one of the you not to give up.
Yeah.
I'm committed
Yes.
to this. This is my life.
Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah. Yeah. It has to be more, I'm kind of giving away a little in one place I talked about how I cannot be motivated or moved by your will because your will can get warm. Sometimes when you are motivated by will, you will lose in areas you would have won in if you were motivated by more than just your
Oh,
willpower.
that's good.
Where did you say this was going to be written at, Bishop?
That's the sermon for
That's tomorrow for the sermon. Oh, okay. We're going to be streaming live. Yes. Dee, what was your favorite part of the book?
Oh my. Just about every chapter, but the theme that I think ministered to me very loudly was capacity. In chapter 11, because I truly believe one of the things that this space taught me is capacity is all about perception. And I think so often we put emotional bondage on our hearts because we don't perceive that we have the capacity to push through what we're faced with or where we're walking to. And then the responsibility of owning, I am capable of what I don't want others to know. Because there's responsibility that comes with owning. Girl, you graced to do this. You graced to live this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I really liked your definition of capacity when you talked about the fact that it comes before increase.
Yes.
And then at the bottom, you said, this is your season of expansion. And I truly believe that so many times we're asking for blessings and we have not cultivated the capacity to be sustained in it.
Right.
That's good.
Right. Yeah.
Excellent.
Capacity speaks of expectation. You know, what tells God the expectation I'm living in.
Say it again.
And so you have to, the capacity I create tells God the expectation that I'm really living in. You know, I have to create the capacity before I act.
That's good, Bishop. That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. Hadassah, join us at the table. I know that you read the book. Bishop, this is one of our young ladies. This is our creative director behind the scenes, handling our cameras.
All right.
Come on in. Hattie, share with us some of your favorite parts of the book. Come over here between Shalonda and Marcy.
Good morning, Bishop.
Good morning.
Yes.
I really enjoyed this writing. And one of my favorite, I too share the same statements that everyone made at the table, that the whole book was just incredible. You find yourself highlighting every page. I have Kindles at the front. But I think it was I'm thinking it was day 3 or day 4, day 3. Elevate your expectations. Yes. That is how I begin your day 3 meditation. And I went on to, I highlighted literally that entire page. So good, and I'm going to read it anyways. I read a quote from that famous boxer, Muhammad Ali. Intentions will always be ineffective when you have no expectation.
Yes.
Your intentions always have to be towards something. You have to expect something. You have to expect greatness. You have to expect deliverance. You have to expect things to get better. When you have great expectations, then your intentions become effective because you move your actions toward an expected goal. Yes. And I can go
because that was really good.
When you have no expectation, it will show up in your actions or lack thereof.
Yes.
And not only do you have to expect it, but also you have to want it.
Yes.
You have to want the greatest season of your life. You have to want the greatest marriage possible. You have to want to be the greatest in every area of your purpose. You have to for yourself.
Yes.
When you don't expect much, our intentions are dummied down to the lack of expectation for better, which we have determined is not coming our way. This, my friend, becomes a door of invitation to the get-by syndrome. Your low expectations lower your intentions to actions that afford you the opportunity to get by and the excuse satisfied.
Oh my gosh.
I don't think I need to make a comment on that other than this right here just blessed my whole life. So thank you.
Let me say what I put in the column. Bishop. All caps. So good. Wow. Ty, what was your favorite part of the book?
I was definitely torn between day 28 and day, but I'm going to go with 29. You were too, Sean? Why you screaming?
Day 28 was mine.
Oh, okay. So day 29, I was so tickled because I remember the commercial, the Mikey commercial.
Yeah,
that was my favorite part of that, to be the push that somebody's needed, that somebody needs. So that was very applicable to me and relatable. So 29 would definitely be my favorite scripture. My favorite one. So thinking back on that commercial, I was writing a devotional, brought to my mind several insights. It takes the innocence of a childlike venture into trying things you have never tried before.
Yes.
Sometimes when you move away from that childlike consciousness, it takes to really live the consciousness it takes to really live in faith. You begin to ask questions that will cause you to miss
That
out
right there.
on your
Bishop.
Y'all are funny.
When you've been through life and life happens and it robs you of the innocence that childlike consciousness will bring, how do you tell somebody that it can be restored?
I until you have the experience of it yourself, like you said, your ability to tell somebody what can happen for them has to be fueled by your own convictions, and your convictions are the results of your experiences.
Yes.
You know, I can't have a conviction about something of it's only been told about.
That's the truth.
I can repeat the phrase and I can believe it's true, but I don't have a conviction about it without an experience with it.
Yes.
And so, you know, you have to be the thing that can tell somebody else you can start over. You can do it again.
Yeah, that's good.
That's my target audience.
That's it. How about that, Charmy?
Hold on 1 second, please. I'm so sorry.
She don't want to forget this thought that you just told her, Bishop.
We taking notes and everything.
Yes.
I was gonna say that. Well, I still will. 28 was probably one of my favorites, but I'm gonna let Tamika have that one, and I'm gonna go with. You're not gonna do it? Okay. Well, I'm gonna still go with day 13.
Did you say 13?
Day 13.
If anybody.
Day 13. And I think the thing for me that really stood out about this particular day is something very simple. I mean, I highlighted one line. It says, Simon got no guarantees from Jesus.
That whole thing, that little paragraph took me out.
Like, all he got was one word. And it was up to him to do it or not.
Yes.
At no point did Jesus promise him that something greater would happen. He had to trust him at his word. And if you can't believe my word, then you're not fit for the promise.
You are not fit for the promise. Yes, Charmy. What else? Yes. Yes.
Day 13 for me.
Can I say something about day 13 that blessed me? And so, again, the part that challenged me, people who quit are remembered for being quitters. And look, I'm telling you, that got my foot like, I'm not a quitter.
Yeah.
I'm not a quitter. I'm not a quitter. And I pride myself on not being a quitter.
That's good.
And when you said that, people who quit are remembered for being quitters. And when you gave
Yeah.
the example of the boxer, and I was just like, you're so right. Like, do you remember the person who quit in their dream? Right. Nobody else does either.
That's it.
I'll be remembered for trying, for loving, for living, for, being an answer for Christ, but not for quitting. You won't be able to call me a quitter.
That's it.
Right.
And so, yes, you checked me there. I was like, yep, that's me.
Yes. Tamika.
In terms of favorite chapter, my favorite chapter, day 28, just because it gave what was necessary to replace excuse. But I believe, and that was persistence, resolve, and diligence. But I believe that the ground that you broke up before you got to day 28 is a little more critical. So I want to highlight day 14.
That's where I'm at.
On page 46.
Yes.
I want to highlight day 14 because it was a shift mentally for me. I am not what failed.
That was so good.
It was so good. You got the difference in failing and failure.
Right.
Yes.
You can't fear failure.
Yes.
And so at the bottom, down towards the third paragraph midway, it says there are people who get the definition of the value of their life from their failures and success. You equate the value of who you are to the total of what you have or have not done. So then if I have had some things that have failed, I in turn call myself a failure. Why? Because things have failed.
Yes.
The mistake you made is allowing your outcome the authority of your identity.
This was it.
That was
Wait.
good.
The mistake you made is allowing your outcome the authority to give you the definition of your identity. Just because things fail does not mean we are failures. You see, to be a failure means I become situation tries to say I am. But my value has already given to me before I went through what failed.
Yes.
In Psalm 8, the Psalter, is that right? Lets
That
us
is
know. Lets us know that we are made just a little lower than angels and have been crowned with truth and right. But then you keep digging.
You keep going.
I keep going on this page. All right, so
No, I said he keeps
he
going.
keeps going. The last line says, "Dare by faith to get back up and try it again."
Yes.
But then, ladies, please transition with me to page 83, where day 20 favorite. And right in the middle, he says, "Failure is merely an opportunity to more intelligently begin again." That's it for me. That was it.
But until you learn how to
Look, the
fail,
entire book from
I just want to read one quick line. I'm so sorry.
Where?
On page 82. Nothing is more common than
Yes.
unsuccessful men with talent.
this is it right here.
Lord have mercy.
But then you give example after example in humanity of those who have failed. And the reality is we hide failure, but the greatest portion of our testimony.
Yes,
And if we understood how much those we admire have failed, we would be inspired to continue onward.
Inspired. That
That's
is so
so
good. Oh my goodness. I cannot believe it's 11:50. I do not want the moment to end. This has been so great. Bishop.
See, you should let me come live.
I know, Bishop. We just messed up. We needed another hour. This was so good. I do want people to hear the sentiments of your heart as we close out the radio show. I do, if you were to offer some words of the hundreds of thousands of people that we have blessed to have listened to us through listenvision.live and on our social media page. Thank you. What would be the sentiments of your heart that you would like to share? And can you please tell people listening how they can get a hold of your book?
Yeah. Well, let me thank you again, friend, and my sister for inviting me to share with all of you wonderful ladies today. I'll start by telling you can get it on every media platform, Amazon. You can go to not only the Kindle but the Nook, iBooks. You can order them from Amazon as well, or you can go right to my website www.won'thedoit.com, and we can send copies from there as well. Working on getting it actually in bookstores as we speak and believing God for that.
Amen.
I think, if there were any advice I would give, my grandmother used to say something that I take with me everywhere, and that is, in bad grammar, be who you is, because if you ain't who you is who you ain't.
Yeah. And we know what that.
And that walk in the value of the authentic person God has made you. And whatever and whoever you need to be authentically who you were created to be, God will give that to you. And even things that fail become a learning opportunity to start over.
Amen.
That's right.
And that, all of us are here because of the divine design that was in the mind of God. So none of us are here by accident. You are here because before two people got together to make you, God had already designed you.
Yes.
And walk in that and let that feed your value. Because if you allow that to feed your value, nothing you go through or nothing anybody else says can devalue who you are.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, Bishop. This has been
Thank you.
This has been a phenomenal moment. It is my hope that each person will order the book, buy it for somebody that you love. It's a necessary read. We'll be back with you on Saturday, March the 23rd. Please join us. Follow us on AWV Matters to find out everything we're doing on our social media platform with the Woman's Voice Matters. And Bishop, bless you. And I thank God for giving you the wisdom and the courage to write this book. It was necessary.
Tell my brother I said what's up.
I promise I will. Kiss my girl, because she looked good in the frame just now. Give her a kiss for me. She looked good.
I'll do it.
Yes.
I
Bye,
promise
Bishop.
you I will.
Bye, Bishop. Bye, guys.
Bye.
See y'all. Thank you for joining. We'll see you next month. Yes. It's so good.
Now's the time. you know